Coming up today in episode 211 of Husavik Heroes, we take on Hertha Berlin for the second season in a row in the Champions League semi-finals. Can we overcome the curse and make our way through to a 7th straight Champions League final? Also, we'll keep you updated with Fylkir as they take on Bayer Leverkusen in the semi-finals of the Conference League. That is coming up off the back of the intro. Back to Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and if you are looking forward to today's episode, where hopefully we might see two Icelandic teams make their way through to European finals, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, but very little has happened competitively for us off the back of our quarterfinal in yesterday's episode against AC Milan. If you did miss that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. In fact, the only real thing of note that has happened is with our under-19 team. I'm not actually too sure in terms of us if it is a good thing, because they have won the Youth League 2-0 in the final over Borussia Dortmund, a competition that we have now won a couple of times, including back in 2037. But the common theme with when we do win the Youth League and with our senior team is that we don't win it in the same year. So we're going to have to try and overcome the curse of the Youth League this year, because our youth team, as you can see there, did beat Borussia Dortmund 2-0 in that final. Hopefully we can pick up both top honours here in the UEFA Pyramid this season. But going forward a few clicks off the back of that win in that Youth League final for our under-19s, and it is time for us to take part in this Champions League final against Hertha Berlin. Just a quick update down in the Conference League. This league is going to be played a few days after we play our first one here against Hertha Berlin, but we'll keep you updated throughout today's episode. But just a reminder, Fylkir have made their way through to the semi-finals. They are taking on a Bayer Leverkusen team who did beat them twice in the group stage, but Fylkir, I think, in a little bit better form now. So hopefully, if they can get past Bayer Leverkusen, they might be a decent chance of picking up our first other Icelandic European trophy in this save, and that would be some nice progress getting towards the end of my time playing this save here in this YouTube series. But going back now to focus on us, we are about to take on Hertha Berlin in the first leg of this Champions League semi-final at the Olympiastadion in Berlin. The other semi-final is going to be played between Man United and Barcelona. We can actually bring you guys the result of that semi-final before we do play the second leg in today's episode. But Hertha Berlin, as mentioned in the intro, this is the team that we did actually beat last season in the semi-final, so they should be pretty similar to what they did look like back then. It does look like here on the tactic page, they are missing some of their better players from their most recent game in the Bundesliga, which is fair enough, because if we go over and have a look at the Bundesliga table, they are already champions, 8 points clear of Bayern Munich with only 2 games remaining. So they, for the third season in a row, are going to be the champions of Germany. So these days they are definitely the best team in Germany, if that was not confirmed with the fact that they did beat Bayern Munich in that quarterfinal during yesterday's episode, missing some players there in that starting lineup from the most recent game, like striker Jacob Namira, and they also have some good other players like their winger come midfielder and Ahmed Abdullah. Pedro Augusto has the most assists, and in terms of player of the match, is another good left wing option that they do have there is Fuad Achilles. So they do have a few players that we do need to be wary of. Genius, quite a promising midfielder as well, but I'd like to think, as we showed last season, that we will hopefully be better than a good German team yet again, even if they are these days. 5-star reputation. In terms of us, there's been no changes at all that we've made off the back of what did happen in yesterday's episode, with such a short gap and also no competitive fixtures that we have played in between now and then. Gabriel Kapan is back from his injury, but just a little bit short on match sharpness compared to Erdan Shaihi, so we're not going to change the squad at all going into this one, and we'll come back shortly with the first leg, as I said, from the Olympiastadion of this season's Champions League semi-final. And here are the team sheets for this first leg. Here are Hertha Berlin. One player I did forget to mention before, they are playing a 4-4-2, but out on the left wing, one of our former players, Ousmane Diop. He was a fringe player for us who never really got a start here, starting for these guys out on the left wing. So that is interesting, but there's our team, the 4-3-3. We are in the green, Hertha Berlin in the white and blue, and let's see if we can grab an advantage to take back to Iceland. And we in fact have a highlight immediately from the kickoff here off the back of me just adjusting some opposition instructions in terms of showing most of the players with weaker foots onto those, but Hertha Berlin here early do get on the front foot. Pedro Augusto there does get a shot off, but thankfully that does go right into the path of German national goalkeeper Karl Vollen there at the near post, and it does look like this highlight is going to continue, so we might have a bit of action here early in this one as we steadily look to play our way out from the back. Bayer switches that one out to the left-hand side with Jonathan Berger back there for Bayer Leverkusen. We take our time here to try and get this forward to our midfielders, and now we get it up to Lapase, and we eventually get it into the opposition half here, and now Adam Saki starts to drive forward. Nice ball there for Lassana Doumbia. Good ball there for Aga Tigre, but unfortunately that comes off of the post, so a good early chance there, but it remains 0-0. And very shortly off the back of that opening chance from that kickoff highlight, we are back down the other end here. This time, though, it's a free kick in our favour, so hopefully we can get back down the other end here and try and get on the score sheet first in Berlin. Bayer trying to link up there with Saki. He does, but Saki there with a poor ball back, and now Pedro Augusto is somewhat in behind, but thankfully his shot goes high and wide. That's a good chance now for either team, but still 0-0 after about 5 minutes. And going forward to the 13-minute mark for our next highlight of this game, there has been a yellow card for each team since you were last here. Our one did go to Radenko Krolo, so that does mean we might have to get someone like Christopher Allergaard involved later if we do want to play things safe. I suppose the downside to that is Allergaard is also our backup for left wing, so it would mean that if Lapase starts to struggle, we might have to make a difficult decision there. But off the back of that clearance, we do get the ball back, start to get it forward to Benvenu Bayer, and yet again we can't quite link up there in the midfield. Another good chance there for Pedro Augusto, who early doors is looking quite dangerous there with his pace compared to our defence, but thankfully Karl Vollen does make a good save. We'll see what happens from the subsequent corner, but thankfully Bayer does head that one away. That ball put in by a former player, Ousmane Diop, and it does look like we are going to deal with this danger. Lapase will try and get something going on the counter-attack, but that will do it for that highlight. 15 minutes gone, and it is still 0-0. And we make our way all the way forward to the 42-minute mark for the next highlight of this first leg of the Champions League semi-final. At the moment, we are well and truly on the back foot in terms of stats, but there is a brilliant time to strike there for Agustin Agatigere. Benvenu Bayer has squared that ball beautifully and given him a wide open net there to put that in the back of the net with. It was a free kick just inside the Hertha Berlin half. Lapase, nice ball here for Bayer, and from there it's a nice square for Agatigere. Just sneaks that inside that near post. I did say he had most of the net available. Not quite the case, but that is a big time to score, as you can tell by the stats. And as you will see now at half time, we have definitely been the second best team in this game, but somehow we take a 1-0 lead into the sheds, and we can only be happy with that. Certainly, we should be able to play a bit better than that in these second halves. That is a very useful advantage, even though we haven't quite been playing at our best. I can't really tell the boys that they're not playing badly, so I'll tell them that I think we can definitely do a bit better and take charge of this match. But for now, we'll make no substitutions, and it's 1-0 as we kick off the second half of this first leg. And we go forward to the 56-minute mark for our first highlight here of this second half. It does start off with a goal kick to Hertha Berlin, but thankfully we do get possession back from it and start to make our way into the opposition half. But yet again, our passing today just not quite linking up as much as we usually would there with our teammates, and this does give Hertha Berlin a chance on the counter-attack. Some nice short passing, and somehow Pedro Augusto, who has looked quite dangerous in this game already, he finally puts the ball in the back of the net there, beats Karl Vollen at his near side. That did look like a shot that potentially Karl Vollen should be saving based on the stats that we did see at halftime, those highlights as well. I don't think we can complain too much about the scoreline. Pedro Augusto just not picked up there on that run off of the ball from Namira, and that makes it 1-1 here about 10 minutes into the second half. We're going to make a substitution. Radenko Krolo on a yellow card was easing off tackles, so I think it might be safe to bring on Christopher Allergaard instead of him. That's our first sub, and as I said earlier, 1-1 here with just over a half hour left in the first leg. And shortly off the back of that equaliser to Hertha Berlin, we are back down the other end here for a corner, which Richard Blin does deal with there safely for Hertha, but they do only clear that as far as Lasana Doumbia. Can we strike back pretty much immediately off the back of conceding that equaliser? We hold the ball here nicely just outside the box. We slot through Adam Saki there. Does Benvenu Bayer. He buries that into the bottom left corner. And just like yesterday in the away leg against AC Milan, after conceding a goal, which in that case equalised the tie, this time just on the day in this first leg. But nonetheless, we strike back immediately. Yet again, good 1-2 there between Bayer and Saki. And he buries that. And just like that, we have our lead back 2-1 with 30 minutes left. And going forward now to the 76-minute mark, I think it's time for us to make our second substitution. Aga Tigre did pick up a goal there in the first half. Quite a big one too to give us that lead at half-time. It is down to a red heart. Very able replacement. And Maurizio Menga can come on for him. And we still have a 2-1 lead here with 14 minutes left. And right off the back of that substitution taking place, we have got another highlight here, which does start with a throw around about on the halfway line. Nice ball there to slot away Menga, who has been quite lethal for us in the past off the bench in European games. A good chance for him there, but that does pull a decent save out of the Hertha goalkeeper, albeit we do still have a corner, which Doumbia does put into the mixer, albeit Hertha Berlin might get a chance here to get something going on the counter-attack as Indai makes his way down the right wing, but good slide tackle there from Basaroge. Still 2-1 with just over 10 minutes left. And shortly off the back of that most recent highlight, it is time for our last substitution. As per usual, Lasana Doumbia does go down to a red heart, so Bruno Costa will come on for him. And with around about 5 minutes left of this one, we have a free kick here. Will this be a chance for us to grab a cushion goal, or could it be a chance for Hertha Berlin to equalise things here at 2-2, which based on the stats, they probably deserve. That's a big interception there from Jonathan Berger, and yet again a chance here for Maurizio Menga, but puts that just over the bar, and it does look like this one might finish up at 2-1 with only 5 minutes left. And we are about to enter injury time of this one. There is 5 minutes of it, so there could potentially be one more highlight, but somehow it does look like we might come out of this game with a 2-1 advantage going back to Iceland. As you can tell by the stats, we have definitely been the second best team in this game, but thankfully our strikers, or players in general, have been a bit more efficient with their chances than Hertha Berlin's have, and that does mean we are taking a 2-1 advantage back to Iceland for that second leg. Yet again, we somehow find a way to continue to pick up the wins in this season's Champions League, even though in this game and also against AC Milan yesterday, I think it's fair to say we haven't quite been at our best, but that is still a good result there away from home, as you can tell by those stats. As I said, obviously, second best team in that game, but we'll tell the boys that we're fairly happy with that one, taking an advantage back to Iceland, and we'll come back shortly, update you guys on what's happening in the other Champions League semi-final, and also give you an update on what is going on with Fylkir down in the Conference League in their semi-final against Bayer Leverkusen. And we have gone forward just over a week off the back of that first leg win in Berlin, and as you can see on screen, first things first, both legs of the other semi-final have been completed. They both ended in 1-1 draws, but Manchester United are going through to another Champions League final off the back of a penalty shootout. So there could be the potential here to set up a fourth Champions League final here in the last 6 years against Manchester United, which would be very interesting now, having not played them for a couple of years in the Champions League. But the bigger news is down in the Conference League, because have a look at this upset. Bayer Leverkusen at home got an opening goal there in the 5th minute against Fylkir, but from there to late first half strikes to Fylkir, and then one of our lone players, Jakub Szczebonski, got a goal in the second half, and that does mean that Fylkir are taking quite a nice advantage there back to Iceland, just like us, for that second leg, but Fylkir with a better advantage, and if they can beat Bayer Leverkusen, I would give them a pretty nice chance there against one of Benfica or Valencia in that final. Also interesting to see that one of our other lone players did get sent off in that other semi-final for Valencia in Emil Holst, of course the player who was ranked second in the next gen list that we did look at in yesterday's episode. Benfica at the moment do hold a 4-3 lead, so it does look like at the moment potentially a Portugal versus Iceland clash in the Conference League final, and that would be a big game. It might be one that we actually check out before we play our Champions League final in tomorrow's episode, if we do make it that far. If we don't make it that far, it's a game that we will definitely watch to give you guys something to have a look at. But already, Fylkir might potentially be on the verge of being the first other Icelandic team apart from us to make a European final in this save, taking a 3-1 lead back to Iceland for that second leg. But we've got no new injury concerns or squad updates going into this second leg against Hertha Berlin. Hopefully, we can perform a bit better than in that first leg and really drive this home and make our way through to, as I said in the intro, our 7th straight Champions League final. We'll come back shortly from my arena and hopefully get the job done. And here are the team sheets for this second leg. In terms of us, as mentioned before, we are exactly the same as we have been over the past few episodes. But in terms of Hertha Berlin, they've got the same formation, but have changed their personnel in terms of who's in the team, as well as their positions, which does look a little bit interesting. But we get the second leg underway with a 2-1 advantage. And we go all the way forward to the 29-minute mark for our first highlight of this second leg. At the moment, Hertha Berlin yet again well and truly on top of us, and there is a golden chance for Pedro Augusto to pick up an equaliser. He is looking like a very dangerous player so far in these two ties, but thankfully that ball was struck straight into the path of Calvo, and then Gajdos tries to get one off there, but it is blocked, albeit it will result in another corner here for Hertha Berlin. As you can see there, not too far from my face cam, Radenko Krolo yet again has picked up a yellow card, but thankfully we deal with that early danger, and it remains 0-0 on the day. 2-1 Völsungur, half an hour into the second leg. And that is half time in the second leg of this year's Champions League semi-final. We have been absolutely woeful at home. Hertha Berlin, yet again, well and truly on top of us, so we definitely need to perform better in the second half. Otherwise, there is a chance we could be going out in the semi-finals for the first time in quite a while. Give the boys a bit of a rev up here at halftime and also make one substitution. Krolo on that yellow card. Alagard will come on for him, but thankfully we still have a lead, albeit not playing that well. 2-1 as we get the second half of the semi-final second leg underway. And very early into the second half, only 30 seconds into it, we do have an early free kick here, and we start to make our way into the opposition half. Lassana Doumbia finds himself in a ton of space, and after not showing up at all in that first half, we get a highlight early in the second one, and Jonathan Berger sets up Lassana Doumbia, and we grab a goal here. Hertha Berlin have no real reward for their dominance in either game so far, and now we have our cushion goal on aggregate. That's a lovely finish there from Lassana Doumbia, and that makes it 1-0 on the day. 3-1 on aggregate, albeit there is a highlight here for Hertha Berlin right off the back of that opening goal to us in the second leg. And another chance here for Pedro Augusto, who does look very dangerous. Thankfully, puts that run on the wrong side of that near post, and we do still hold our 2-goal advantage. And up to the 55-minute mark, we're going to make our second substitution at this time. Benvenu Bayer only going okay and has just picked up a yellow card. We will bring on Marcelo Jr. for him with 35 minutes left. And we are just about to enter the last 20 minutes of this game. No highlights since that opening flurry here in the second half, but John Avies Lapase is struggling out there on a 6.3. We're going to make our last substitution. Ori Halson, the local striker, can also play left wing, so he can come on for Lapase, and that's all of our subs used. Still 3-1 up with just over 20 minutes left. And we go forward to the 84-minute mark, and finally something else is happening in the second leg, albeit hopefully it is in our favour. We try and play a ball forward there for Adam Saki, but Torres does get on the end of it first, and this could end up being a chance for Hertha Berlin. He does pump it deep. Thankfully, Berger does win that ball before the dangerous Pedro Augusto, albeit this time gets in behind our defence. He tries to put that top right corner, just goes over the bar, so thankfully he has not been that efficient with his shooting, but is getting himself in some quite good positions. That's a poor first touch there, though, from Alagard off the back of the subsequent goal kick, and they are on the attack yet again here. Hertha Berlin trying to find an equaliser. Pedro Augusto puts that away in the bottom left corner, but I think he's pretty safely offside here by quite a big margin. We are going to have to wait, though, for a VAR check. With 4 minutes left, this could be a big goal if it is given, but thankfully VAR does intervene, and Pedro Augusto can't add to his tally in this time. He has a good stride or two offside, so we do still have our 2-goal cushion entering the last few minutes of this Champions League semi-final, and we are about to enter injury time. Alagard plays this one back to Filippo Dinelli. One more goal here would be very, very nice indeed, just to make sure that we can hold on and make our way through to a 7th Great Champions League final. Nice ball there from Marcelo Jr. It's very, very lucky in how that one eventually sits up for Adam Saki off of the slide tackle. And there is the goal so far in this game. Adam Saki not playing that well, only on a 6.3 rating, but no doubt that will improve off the back of that goal, and that should seal our place in a 7th Great Champions League final. Was looking for Dumbia there, was Marcelo Jr., but that slide tackle just set it up perfectly for Adam Saki to put that away in that bottom left corner, and that makes it 4-1 on aggregate. That is very, very harsh on Hertha Berlin based on the way that this play has been played, but it does look like we are going through to yet another Champions League final, albeit we do have a late highlight here with 92 minutes left. We'll see if there's anything to it, or if it's just a meaningless highlight here to waste the remaining time that we do have in this game. It could potentially be a chance here for Adam Saki again off the ball from Marcelo Jr., but just again a bit too much on that ball, and Torres is there to claim it. We'll try and pump this over the top for Pedro Augusto or one of his fellow strike partners. Bar here on the edge of the box. That's actually a really good chance there for Gajdos to add to the tally, but he puts that header from right in front of the post wide, and that should be about all, with only about 20 more seconds left in this Champions League semi-final. As I mentioned, when we did score that second goal in the second leg, I think the scoreline definitely flatters us, quite similar to what happened against AC Milan in yesterday's episode. But thankfully, with our limited chances, our players have been very, very clinical with them. Hertha Berlin have not been, even though Pedro Augusto has probably looked the most dangerous player in this tie. But that will do it. We somehow come away with a 4-1 win on aggregate, and it does mean that come tomorrow's episode, we are taking on yet again Manchester United in a Champions League final, albeit it's been a few years since we did last defeat them twice in a row off the back of playing them in 3 straight Champions League finals. Something else to consider there. They did lose a player due to an injury for the last 5 or so minutes. That also might have impacted their play late there, Hertha Berlin. But we make our way through to the Champions League final, as I said, off the back of a somewhat flattering scoreline. We go through 4-1. We'll be taking on Manchester United in tomorrow's episode, but we'll come back shortly and see if Fylkir are also playing in the European final. They did hold a 3-1 lead at the end of the first leg against Bayer Leverkusen. And we have gone for another day off the back of that win in that Champions League semi-final. Yet again, we win both legs, even though we probably didn't exactly deserve to, considering the stats in those ties. But thankfully, you can see there is the confirmation. We'll go over it a bit more in detail before we do play them in tomorrow's episode, as well as the history against these guys in previous Champions League finals. But it is Völsungur versus Manchester United from the Metropolitano in Madrid. So that is what is coming up in tomorrow's episode. Manchester United second on the Premier League table. That probably won't change because Chelsea have already wrapped up the Premier League title. But going up a little bit further, our final game before that Champions League final, which was only going to be a few days before it, has been moved forward. And that is for a very, very good reason, because as you can see, Fylkir have a match on the 25th of May against Benfica, and that can only mean one thing. Fylkir have blimmin' done it. They are the first other Icelandic team to make their way through to a European final. They got a 1-1 draw in the second leg there at home against Bayer Leverkusen off the back of what they did in the first leg away from home. That 3-1 win, that does mean they go through 4-2 and are taking on Portugal's Benfica in the second leg. They also picked up a 1-1 draw in that second leg, and that does mean it is a Portugal versus Iceland final, which could be very important for trying to close that gap on the coefficient table. Benfica versus Fylkir. What I think we might do tomorrow is come back and start off by showing you guys the highlights from that game. We'll do it in-game, but we probably won't do it in as much detail as we do our Völsungur games. But we'll definitely show you guys that Conference League final in a little bit of detail before we do our end of European season roundup and then play the Champions League final of 2039 against Manchester United. So tomorrow it is going to be a big episode, 2 games, and hopefully we might get our first other European title for an Icelandic team there, in Fylkir can get the job done over Benfica with that final, I believe, taking place in Turkey. And indeed, that is the case. But that will do it for today's episode. The benefit of that game being moved forward, as you can see, just before we do wrap things up today, we have a week gap in between that game against Fylkir and that Champions League final. So there's going to be a bigger gap than we do usually get in between that last league game that we usually do play before we do take part in the Champions League final. So Fylkir have actually helped us out there quite a bit as well by making that Conference League final. But that will do it for today's episode. We are taking on Manchester United in a Champions League final tomorrow, and Fylkir take on Benfica in a Conference League final. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. And until tomorrow, where we will have 2 European finals, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.